you go. Woohoo! Happy Tuesday. Yes, yes, yes. No, not a Wednesday. We are here on a Tuesday night because we have something special for you. There you go. Let me fix that. So, Canadian wine lovers, Carl's Wine Club members, happy Tuesday. Welcome to a special edition of Meet the Maker. Yes, that's going to be a fun one tonight because I am meeting with Allison Findlay, winemaker at Flat Rock Cellars in Niagara, Ontario. So I'm sitting here in my chair in my office here in the cellar at Carl's Wine Club in West Kelowna. 5 o'clock here. Now, all the way down back east, it's 8 o'clock, and I'm going to bring Allison in a few minute time here, but I just want to welcome everyone. And why are we doing that? But more and more, we try to give you the best content in terms of wine feature, try to diversify a lot of what we do because we are the only pan-Canadian wine club. And every week we try to give you different perspective of the Canadian wine industry in the bottle, throughout our tasting notes, throughout Mira and High opinion of the wine, throughout social media, juicing out all of the other members' opinion about different wines. But we're trying to bring more and more. I don't know if you noticed, but some of the wine personality and also winery perspective. So tonight we're going to have Allison, who is part of the winemaking team at Flat Rock Cellars in Niagara, where they specialize on Pinot Noir, Chardonnay, Rieslings. And yeah, so listening to Ed, the owner, I love. They have some amazing quote that we'd love to. We're gonna like to talk about a little later on here when Mira joined us. If you wonder where's Mira, well, she's on her way. She's on her way. She's gonna be around in probably 15-20 minute time, like, kids pick up after school and all that. So yeah, Mira's going to be joining us. She's been doing research about quote and the history of Flat Rocks and and all of the philosophy. And I can't wait to chat with Allison here. I can't wait to talk about what's in the bottle, because for me, what's really excites me, it's the juice. It's what's in there. I have some of the 2019 Gravity Pinot Noir here. We're going to talk about Rusty Shed, Chardonnay. We're going to talk about the Unplugged Chardonnay. I want to talk about the Naya Vineyard Rieslings. So there's many things that we want to talk about, but I want to talk with Allison about her philosophy, about the winemaking, all the she approach each and every vintage. So it's going to be a fun conversation. So if you guys are tuning in, let me know. Where are you tuning in from? Are you from Vancouver Island? Are you tuning in from Victoria? Are you tuning in from back east, from Alberta? Where are you tuning in from? And what's in your glass tonight? I have a few cool things in my glass here. I have 2019 Rieslings. I have Gravity Pinot Noir. And so, yeah, I have my lineup behind me. We had a couple of shipment of wine arrive today. Oh, and also we had a pretty cool tasting. We spent part of our morning at Grey Monk in Lake Country here in British Columbia. So we spent a couple of hours tasting wines at Grey Monk and some pretty cool stuff. Good value wines and some pretty good premium wine with the Odyssey program as well. So some cool stuff. So where are you tuning in? What's in your glass? I want to know. And in a few minutes time, we are going to bring in Allison Findlay, winemaker at Flat Rock Cellar here. We have Ken McAllister is joining us from Calgary. Ken, good evening. I don't know what's in your glass here on a beautiful Tuesday night. A little break of the really cold weather, I think. It's still Winnipeg, Saskatchewan, still pretty cold. Well, you know, we are monitoring the weather across the country for shipping purposes. We want to make sure everyone gets their package in perfect condition. So yeah, Michelle is tuning in. Grey Monk Pinot Blanc. So I was just talking about Pinot Grey Monk here. Leslie Harbison is tuning in from Calgary as well. So a pretty good crew are joining right now. And if you see my face pretty close from the camera, just because I hooked up my glasses, can't see anything. So I just tried to see here the comments, who's tuning in from. So good crew here from Calgary tonight are tuning in. We have Denise from Alberta as well. So 5 o'clock here, BC time, 6 o'clock Alberta, 8 o'clock Eastern time zone. Let's see if Allison has arrived here in the green room. Not yet, probably around 5:15. So I will keep going here. There you go. So I touched something anyway. Boom. There you go. Denise, Michelle. So yeah, pretty cool tasting here at Grey Monk this morning. Great view on Lake Okanagan. It was really cool. Really enjoyed this. Great time chatting with the general manager. Trying to find some good value wine because, you know, we've been sourcing a lot of like really great collector stuff lately, but we also want to get you some great value offer, just like we are doing this week, because Flat Rocks are known, and I also discovered personally when I tasted the whole lineup that they can, that's what's the cool thing with Flat Rock, what they're doing here. They do both. They do single vineyard, terroir, expression wines, but also they also do from the same grape varietal. They do that great value proposition, the $19, $20, $22 wine where over delivers really that beautiful grape typicity, like where Riesling tastes great Riesling, tastes Ontario Riesling, but at a fantastic price. And you're on the other side, you go and taste that single vineyard with great like focus and precision at a different price point, but also great value. So seeing both from each side, it's something pretty cool, pretty interesting to see. Pinots, Chard, and also Pinot, Chard, and also some Chardonnay. When I tasted the that rusty shed Chardonnay, I absolutely love what I've seen from that. Awesome. So you guys know how much I like my Chardonnay, and I like my Chardonnay in every shape or form possible. Old, new, vibrant, oaky, unoak, and like when I got two bottles side by side, showing me different stuff. Some showing me roundness, and purity of fruit. On the other side, I got like that nice, bright and oaky, great soft texture. So that's the beauty of what you can do with these varietal and different price point, for wines for different occasion. So tonight we're going to talk especially about 6 different wines. I thought my take on that was, yes, the quality of the single vineyard stuff was absolutely fantastic. But when I look at the value wines, the one around the $20, it's not like it was not far off in terms of quality. Yeah, definitely great quality. But when you put the price in perspective, oh my God, that value proposition offers so much. So yeah, I'm interested to see what's the philosophy behind that and the whole winery perspective in terms of grape sourcing, in terms of when you bring the fruit at the winery, the fruit selection, right? When do they make that decision of these grapes are going to go for the explore or from the entry level label, or which one is going into the top line? So these are going to be fun conversation that we're gonna chat with Allison in a few minute time. So pretty excited about that. I'm sure that they have some pretty busy time right now organizing, because everything is going back to normal with a sense of normalcy uh, in Ontario, just coming back from a lockdown. So things are ramping up out there. Tasting room are starting to get staff again, organizing in-person tasting. So timing is great here to chat about and what's coming up, like how they're seeing the new 2022 season, just coming on the other side of another lockdown. So it's going to be interesting to see how the winery approach the whole new season coming up with uncertainty, that's for sure. But what's the strategy? Because guess what? I know that you are at home and you are wondering, like, because we're going to start traveling soon. And oh, by the way, it's booked, it's secured. That's Carl's Wine Club. Me and Carl are going to be in Ontario June the 20th all the way to June 29. So a big 9 days in Niagara. Yes, we're going to be there. Party at Bella Terra scheduled for June 24th. So it's in the book. The flight tickets are booked. Also, the flight tickets are booked. The house has been rented in Niagara. Bringing the kids with us and all the whole 9 yards. But it's going to be Carl's Wine Club members party at Bella Terra on the Friday 24th of June, and we're gonna hit different wineries along the way during that full week of fun and meeting with people in person in different region and sub-region of sub-appellation of Niagara. I know that we already starting to get some requests from members. Where do you want to go? Where should we visit all together? So there's some fun stuff going on. So if you have ideas, if you're on tonight and you say, yeah, you know what? Let's make sure that we hit that winery or this winery. Let me know. Give me a note. How about we book that? Like, we plan that all together, and we make sure that as much as we can, we see as many people as possible, and hopefully the circumstances in the post-COVID world, that's where we're heading. So I'm kind of looking forward to the whole post-COVID. We've been sitting in our offices, talking about wines, exploring different regions, meeting each other on Zoom, on StreamYard, on Facebook, but still barely no human connection, and we are looking forward for that for that trip. So let's see here. Not yet. So I kind of see. So Mike Laplante, the average wine enthusiast here is Justin, and can't wait to meet up with the Bouchers. Oh, absolutely, Mike. It's going to be an absolute blast. I can't wait. And also, I'm a baseball fanatic, so coached baseball for years with the kids and all of that. So we got and a big Red Sox fan. So just like that, just timing, booked the trip, and we realized that the Red Sox are in Toronto playing the Blue Jays, while right the night of my birthday on June 27th. So it's going to be a blast. We're going to be right there at Rogers Stadium. So yeah, a little like off the beaten path type of night. We're going to spend a night in Toronto with the kids, taking them to the baseball game. All be pretty fun. But yeah, let us know if there's any specific place as members that you guys would like to visit. A little bit in French, just a few minutes before Allison joined us. Un beau bonjour à tout le monde en français. Merci de vous joindre à nous. Ce soir, on reçoit Allison Findlay, qui est la winemaker à Flat Rock Cellars à Niagara. Avec Allison, on va parler de la philosophie du vignoble, on va parler de la philosophie de winemaking, des vins, on va parler de Pinot noir, de Riesling, de Chardonnay, de l'histoire du vignoble, où ils sont situés exactement dans la péninsule niagarienne. Niagarienne, je ne sais pas si je peux dire ça, mais anyway, je viens de le dire. On va voir si Allison... Ah, et voilà, je crois qu'Allison vient de se joindre à nous. Donc, we'll get back in English here. Let's bring Allison in, out to the stream. Allison.
Hi, guys. Sorry about the technical difficulties there.
No worries. Hey, Allison. Good evening. No worries about technical difficulties. I'm on my own tonight and try to navigate these things. Usually my job is to taste wine, talk about wine, not to have like all of these technologies trying to make it work, but we're here. 5:15 Western Pacific time, 8:15 Eastern time. So welcome. Thanks for joining me.
Thank you so much for having me. You'd think after 2 years of this, we'd have it all figured out, but...
How's the weather right now? Is it still cold, warming up a little bit?
You know what? It doesn't really know what it wants to do right now. So yes, it is warm today, but the wind is crazy. It's going to be 30 centimeters of snow tomorrow. So it's kind of all over the place.
That's pretty crazy. You guys have been hit with snowstorm, with extreme cold. We had some wine stuck in Ontario for a couple of weeks now.
Yeah.
And Winnipeg doesn't help. It's always cold in Winnipeg. There's that wall of cold, so we can't ship anything back western side. So hopefully it's going to warm up very soon.
That's the prairie love.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. That's the beauty of our beautiful big country. So Allison, thank you so much, because there's so much to cover when we talk Niagara wine. But mostly I would like to focus on your portfolio. Before we touch the wine, I want to know more about you. I know that the members are excited to know more about Allison Findlay, the winemaker. How did you get there, and what's your background? So tell us a little bit more about you.
Well, thank you so much. So a little about myself. I came from a small town, actually not too far from Winnipeg. So you speak about how cold Winnipeg is, but I grew up 3 hours from Winnipeg, in an even smaller, colder northern town called Dryden, Ontario. And I had a love for all things science and biology, and was kind of a science nerd growing up. So I really got into plants and that kind of stuff. And after my undergraduate degree, I didn't know what I wanted to do, but I knew I wanted to keep learning. So a friend of mine just happened to be doing their teacher's college degree at Brock University in St. Catharines, which is in the heart of wine country. So I went to visit her. We went wine tasting, and the rest is kind of history. I was blown away with the people's enthusiasm, the passion, the soil, the sunshine, the art, the science, everything behind wine that I really didn't have a clue about, other than that it was a beverage that my mom drank. And I applied to the Niagara College program. I got in, and 10 years later, I'm still here.
That's phenomenal. Dryden, Ontario. I just think, because I played hockey for a very long time, and it feels like there's a couple of hockey guys who are from Dryden.
It's Pittsburgher. It's our claim to fame.
That's it. Yeah. Here you go. I knew there was at least one that I should have remembered. That's it. I'm from a small little hockey town as well. I'm from Chicoutimi up north, Quebec. So when we talk about cold, snow, like winter, it feels like the winter started in September and finished in May.
Yeah, definitely May.
I know exactly what you mean. So after your degree at Niagara College. Did you went overseas? Did you went somewhere to learn different philosophy, or you stayed in Niagara and you're like a Niagara product, and that's where you learned the foundation of your style of winemaking?
And no, I definitely got excited at the aspect of travel within the winemaking world. So after I graduated, I quickly went off to Australia because their summer is our winter. So when things were quiet for us, they were just getting ramped up in the Southern Hemisphere. So I was able to work at a place in the Clare Valley, which is quite far south in Australia, which is the cool climate Australia.
Exactly
But I can
right.
guarantee you that 42 degrees Celsius is not cold. Yeah, so I got to learn a lot there. They do a lot more wine. Their volume is a lot higher. So I learned that kind of, more of a tank farm kind of mass production aspect. And then I got to go to Oregon after that and learn a lot about Pinot Noir, really look about a lot of different vineyards, a lot of single vineyard styles and expressions, and just really dive into the Pinot Noir scene with Oregon, which is an amazing place. If I didn't want to live in Canada the rest of my life, I would be in Oregon tomorrow. It is the people, the place, the wines, everything was just spectacular about Oregon. Unfortunately, it's in the U.S., but that's the only downside. But it was a spectacular experience, and yeah, I loved that. And then I was lucky enough to come home and then land at Flat Rock as kind of like a cellar hand, kind of assistant winemaker role. And then now I've been there for 6 years.
So that's a
And
pretty cool thing, because starting as a wine cellar hand under one of the legends of the winemaking in
oh, I
our
know.
country, I think that you landed in a pretty cool place. But before we start talking about when you started at Flat Rock, let's get back to Clare Valley. Clare Valley, I think that's where like Rieslings, right?
Riesling, yeah,
Like
absolutely.
Rieslings in Australia, if you look at Riesling, like most of the production comes from Clare Valley. So
Yeah.
were your first hand on Rieslings there? Does any name that you work with, any name, like which winery did you work for? I worked in
Yeah.
the international wine industry for a while, so
It was called Curie Hill.
okay.
And yeah, it was like, for them it's not a huge producer, but for me, it was a huge volume to put into harvest. And yeah, they did all spectrums of Riesling to, $80 Rieslings down to your like everyday kind of wines, and just tons and tons of wine. It called, when the Sauvignon Blanc would come through, it was the Savalanche. Like it was such a crazy eye-opening experience to be working like 35-ton presses. The one at Flat Rock, for context, is only 5 tons. So it was a really cool experience there. And yeah, the wines are exceptional, but they just do it on such a larger scale.
Larger scale. And it's funny that you mentioned the scales, because when we compare BC wine versus Ontario wine, there you go. That's it already. That like BC are like usually a state of 5-6 acres, and you
Yeah,
talk about Ontario, it's more like 40-50 acres, and now you've seen the 200 acres property
yeah,
where you produce like 50,000 cases. It's almost a small production, right? So
yeah, yeah.
that's awesome. So you work for how many vintage in Australia? How
I
many
just went
vintages that
for
you took?
one vintage in Australia, but I stayed for the entire winter. So I was there for 7 months. So I stayed for the harvest, which is about 6 to 10 weeks, and then I kept on a bit longer, just to make a bit more money so that I could travel after that.
There you go.
Yeah.
Fun time after that.
Hmm.
Leading that after that, you're going to Oregon. So that now you're getting your hands into Pinot Noir, and because Pinot, like Oregon, are known for the quality of their Pinot Noir, more coastal environment, a little bit more, I would say, climate not as hot as California.
Right. Yeah.
So which winery did you work at in Oregon?
So that was at Adelsheim. They're kind of one of the founding wineries of the Willamette Valley. And what I learned there is that they had Pinot Noir as their single red varietal, but they had 90 different experiments going on at any one time. So they did so many trials, so many bench trials, so much attention to detail, and just really cool exploration of what this grape can do. And that's what I kind of emulate at Flat Rock on a smaller scale, because we don't grow 600 tons of Pinot, it's just about 100. But definitely a lot of trials going on with what I do as well, because people think of you just grow one red grape, but the beauty is that red grape has so many different expressions. So I think that's really the fun part of my job.
That is awesome. That is amazing. So you're coming back home, and how did you land it at Flat Rock? It's just like you sent your resume out there. You were looking for someone. How that happened?
It's actually a funny story, and this is a good life lesson. So I sent my resume out. I was a keen, eager cellar dweller, and the guy who ended up hiring me actually didn't get my resume. He had no idea that I even sent it in. So what I did was I followed up about 3 to 4 weeks later, because I was qualified for the job that was described, but I heard nothing back, not even like a thank you. So I followed up 4 weeks later. Hi, Allison. I've never heard from you in my life. I've never seen your resume. We're already in our second round of interviews. I'm not sure, really what to do here. If you wouldn't mind coming in today and talking to us, we could have a chat. And I was like, yeah, I could come in 5 minutes, whatever you need, right? I just wanted this job so bad. And sure enough, I got in. They were already on their second round of interviews. I came in just to chat, and everything's really clicked. It was really easy and a good flow. I met with Ed, our owner, 2 days later, and the week after, I was emptying barrels. It kind of all happened really fast.
That is pretty cool.
Yeah. Very,
Life
very
is
lucky
about,
that I
I believe
followed up.
that life is about timing.
Yes, it's about timing for sure.
Hey, and what
Yeah.
was so appealing for you at Flat Rock? Why did you focus on Flat Rock? Why did you want that job?
So I'd been to Flat Rock multiple times throughout my schooling, and they were very innovative with their gravity flow winery. They're very innovative with their hexagon building, their stunning view. I knew the 20-mile bench was kind of where I wanted to be in the industry, and just getting there and seeing that place and understanding the passion, and then also the focus. So as you know, we do Pinot, Chard, Riesling. We really focus on that because we think not only will those varietals do well on the bench, but they'll survive the cold winters every year when we do get those cold winters, right? So we can always make sure we make a quality product out of those varietals. And the focus is very smart. And I was also intrigued. So one of Ed, the owner's big things is don't look at 3 varietals as, a hindrance. Don't look at that as a negative. Look at that as okay, what can I do with these 3 varietals? Look at it as options and excitement, right? And opportunities. So I really love that part of my job. And I always get to play and do different styles of Riesling, different styles of Pinot Noir within the realm of those 3 varietals.
Yeah, that's exactly what a great segue to where I want to go. It's exactly it. First, I want to talk about the location. We have members from all over the country, so we're not focused on Ontario people. We know exactly where is the 20-mile bench, where's the Beamsville bench,
Right.
where is that. So where are you located? And so you just mentioned about the heat. I think it's a little warmer where you're located on the 20-mile bench. So can you please tell us a little bit more about the location of Flat Rock?
Absolutely. So if I am standing boots on the ground, staring due north from Flat Rock Cellars, I am staring directly at the CN Tower. So we're about 7 kilometers south of the south side of the Ontario coast. And so when I say 20-mile bench, it's because the Niagara Escarpment kind of is the backbone between Lake Erie and Lake Ontario. It's this nice ridge between those 2 lakes. And that's literally the only reason we can grow grapes in Ontario is we have that beautiful warming effect of the lake and that backbone of the escarpment that creates constant airflow and constant moderation of temperatures. That's the only reason we grow grapes in, Beamsville, Jordan, Niagara Lake, and not, past Grimsby or in Hamilton. Even though they're so close, it's not the same growing region and not the same microclimate. So that's kind of where we are. So we're just south of Toronto if you're staring directly north from Flat Rock Cellars.
There you go. So, and what makes the 20-mile bench special?
So the 20-mile bench is just a sub-appellation. So if you think of, you can see there the escarpment, and they have all these little pockets. And the really cool little pockets there are the Beamsville bench and the 20-mile bench, because what happens is those are little steps. So the escarpment's the big, giant step before you head south to Lake Erie. Then you have your bench, and then it drops off big time to where you're going to get into the lake, the old lake bed of Lake Iroquois towards Lake Ontario. And
Whereas the older people will call it the swamp.
The swamp, exactly. You get to the swamp. So these two little intermittent pockets, they are areas where farming wasn't hugely popular because they weren't flat, easily tilled areas. So that soil was left undisturbed for a very, very long time. It's really rich in organic matter. Also, because we're below the top of the escarpment where it's really cold and there isn't that airflow circulation anymore, it's just facing south to Lake Erie. We're facing north and get that constant airflow, and we're not down below either. So we're just getting this constant flow of air that's helping us dry out. If we have excess moisture in the vineyard, we have beautiful drainage towards Lake Ontario. It's just this little, bench of paradise that we have. And I just feel really lucky that we get to grow those key varietals on it.
That's amazing. Thank you for being a little bit more precise on that.
No
I'm sure that helped a lot of our people. Let's welcome Mira here, who's just joining us. She's been reading in the last 5 days, reading and all about Ed's philosophy and about you and about Dave. So I'm sure that she has some burning question here. Mira, how's it going?
Good. I just got back. I don't even have my wine yet, and I want to have a food interlude here. You guys have a restaurant on site, don't you, Allison?
We don't actually have a restaurant on site, but Ed's Brewery has a restaurant attached to it. But we do offer seasonal stuff at the winery.
I saw something with food related on your website at one point, but this is part of our outing today. You can guess what that is. That is a cheesecake with yuzu cream custard or something in it. It looks pretty spectacular. It's from this little Okanagan place that started out of a winery here called Carrot. And now they make these like phenomenal little desserts. We're so excited to have that after this.
Allison, before go ahead, Mira.
What I was going to say is, tell me what you guys have talked about, because I had to drive the kids back, so I didn't hear. But have you guys talked about?
We've just been talking about Allison's background. I was excited to know a little bit more about her trip to Australia, about her background in Oregon, and how did she end up at Flat Rock. So now we're just talking about the area. And before we get into the wines, I want to know, because there's something unique about the facility. There's something unique about the winery itself. Not about the tasting room, it's about the back end. Like the production facility, the gravity flow production facility that you guys have. To me, it's pretty fascinating. So can you tell us a little bit more about the whole thing?
Yeah, so we like to think it, but we did not invent gravity. So we do have a gravity flow winery, meaning the grapes come in at the very top, and they end up in barrels 5 levels below. So one of the thoughts towards this was that was the traditional way to make wine. People didn't have pumps centuries ago, so they brought the grapes in at the top of the farm and put them in barrels in a below ground cellar, which made sense in terms of carrying stuff around back then. We do have pumps now. They're wonderful. However, when they decided to build the winery, tradition took the forefront. So you enter the winery, you're on the top level. That's where the grapes will come in the building. They'll fall into the fermenters, where they'll ferment on the skins the Pinot Noir. From there, they'll fall again down a chute into a press. From there, they get racked into tanks that settle out. And then from there, even down one more level into the barrels. So this Pinot Noir has spent its entire life basically untouched by pumps and oxygen. And really, it's a great way to keep that very, precious grape. It's a thin-skinned grape. It's more delicate than your bigger-bodied Shiraz or Cab. So you're trying to protect it all the way through. A big thing in wine is that it's full of organic compounds. Those organic compounds are what gives you the taste, the flavor, and the color. However, they are very susceptible to oxidation. So it's my job to protect those at all costs so that when you, Carl, are swirling your wine in your glass, are getting them fully. So I'm keeping them tight, 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 and really reductive and antioxidant processes so that when you then swirl it around, it releases, they volatilize, and they end up in your nostrils and on your palate. The other beautiful part about having a gravity flow winery is that we get to build up instead of out. So we do a 20,000 case production in a third of the size it would take if you would span it across on one level. So we're taking up a smaller footprint on the Niagara Escarpment, which is a protected UNESCO biosphere site, right? So we're trying to limit our footprint, physical footprint, on a beautiful part of Ontario.
You know, that's an interesting part, because I know a lot about gravity flow production, but about the space, that's the turn. That is very, very interesting. Wow, I love that. And also, but you guys, like you mentioned, working with Pinots, you want to be gentle with it, so you don't have that pressure, like we know, like the bottle shock when you use the pump to get that in bottles and all of that. Like, the wine need to rest for months because now you shook them so much. So you guys are so gentle with the one, so you preserve the integrity of the grapes, of the juice, before it hits the bottle.
Absolutely. And then once that Pinot, like I said, gets into barrel, our barrels are actually all underground. So again, we're saving energy on heating and cooling because it's and humidity control, because they're buried, and once they're down there, they're going to stay there for the entire time that they age. So it's really a safe space for those wines. We don't want them to be hot. Anything too warm is bad news for microbial activity and stuff. So again, they get to rest in a nice cool temperature and humidity controlled environment that's purely just happening by nature.
Amazing.
How about organic growing and all of that? Are you guys are sustainable organic? Is it something that you pursue? Is it more about a philosophy no matter what, so you don't have the accreditation, but who cares, because that's a philosophy of everyone's practicing? What's the winery vision on that?
Yeah, so I think it's basically sustainability is the idea, but we are conventionally farmed. We're not organic, and that's just because Ed's general philosophy and my general philosophy is I want to make the best wine possible. And that's difficult in Ontario in some years without, conventional practices, because we are fighting a lot of Mother Nature, basically. So we're always, monitoring the amount of moisture we're getting. It's either too much or too little, and it's too hot or it's too cold. And we're always really, trying to produce a grape that is not indigenous to North America, and trying to make the best of it, because we have amazing soils and amazing climates, and this grape can succeed here time and time again. But we have to make sure that it works within, the tougher seasons as well as the easy seasons, because 2020, holy smokes, give me a 2020 every single year of my life, and I'll never have a gray hair, and I'll make the best wine possible. And then in other years, you're just fighting that spring moisture. You can't get a tractor in there, and it's just tough at every turn. So I think a big part is, at the end of the day, we want to make sure that we produce the healthiest, best grapes possible. And we're trying not to be dogmatic about it. What we have to do to get there, is more important. Getting the end result is more important than, worrying about whether it's organic or biodynamic and that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Good.
It makes sense. Yeah. And it's something that we hear a lot in the Okanagan is that, organic practices are not actually possible in large parts of the wine growing world, because it would be way too risky. There'd be so many vintages where they wouldn't be able to produce wines. But in the Okanagan, more and more wineries are doing it, because we have over here the kind of dry conditions that really make that a lot easier. So yeah, but otherwise, I totally understand. Like you have to create
a product at the end of the day. And
Yeah.
if Mother Nature doesn't allow that, you just spent all that energy and time farming it, and you still need a product to sell. And I think, yeah, BC is an amazing climate for organics because it's nice and dry. You guys actually irrigate because, like there's no need for irrigation in Ontario. So yeah, it's a totally different climate, right?
That's right. And it's a different ball game. It's like quite plain and simple, right? You guys are farming bigger estates with completely different climate condition and different rules. So completely different ball game. I totally agree. Let's talk about wine. Okay.
Yes.
I think we already spent too much time talking about other things. I'm oh, there you go.
I want
I
to get
love that.
into the spicy fun thing, which is like, tell me about these real quick. I see them in your logo. Like, this is your logo, you guys.
Yeah. So part of our rebranding as well. But so when they bought the property and they were digging up the soil to plant these vines, they kept finding these like ridiculously car-sized but very flat rocks. Hence, Flat Rock was named after all the flat rocks they found in the vineyard. And that's kind of where you look. If you look under our building, because our retail store is built on stilts, so there's nothing below it. So you can see actually the cutouts of the escarpment. You can see the lines cut into the limestone, and yeah, so all these flat rocks. And so throughout time, the harvest teams, like the people who come in seasonally every harvest, would build a cairn and just kind of a monument to say, we were here for this vintage. We're marking this vintage with this statue, this cairn. And so we've kind of tied in our new branding where it's all of the new branding is physical rocks from our property, spliced by a geologist, and then a photograph taken under a microscope. So all of the new branding you see is actually physically the rocks on our property. And then we wanted to tie that into not only the place, but the people we are. So it's kind of the tie-in of the people and the place of Flat Rock Cellars. And that's the beauty of the new logo and the cairns.
Yeah, speaking about logo and rebranding, that Mira just put the new bottle of the 2020 Pinot Noir. I thought that looked pretty slick. The whole thing
we're very
is
proud of
pretty
it.
slick. And so by bringing that on, let's talk about what's in the bottle, because we have here in the pack, in the feature pack this week, that I don't like to call it entry level, but you have that. Yes, the Foundation series, right? That's how you guys call it?
Yeah.
So the Foundation series Pinot Noir 2020 versus the Gravity 2019. So these two Pinots cannot be more different. Like on the nose, on the palate, on the texture, on the complexity, everything is completely different. You have the Foundation series, easy drinking. And it's funny that now that knowing that you went to Oregon, this wine makes a lot of sense to me now. A little bit more Pacific Northwest style, easy drinking, nice fruits approach, and you get to the Gravity, and there's that complexity, the soil, the minerality, that dirt, that little mushroomy. So these two wines are completely at the opposite. And I believe this is not a question of vintage. It's a question of style. So please tell me more about these two different programs. How do you end up with such different wines?
So yeah, they are made in a similar but obviously different style, and it does have some play with vintage here, just because, like I mentioned earlier, if I could have every year as 2020, I would have the easiest job in the world, because 2020 was that fruitier, that bigger, that more approachable style. So these wines would have been very similarly, picked 100% from our estate. They would have been hand processed. They would have been put across the sorting table, and they would have been fermented on the skins in our small size fermenters and put into French oak to age. So our French oak portfolio is not very heavy on the new oak. So people say oak, yes, it's 100% oaked, but only about 14 to 18% of that's new. That's because we're not trying to cover up the fruit with anything that it can't stand up to. We don't want to overpower what our vineyard is giving us with, char or vanilla or anything too much. We're really trying to showcase the fruit and the place we come from. So the Foundation Pinot Noir 2020 was a hotter year. It's really approachable. It's really accessible. It's totally a fruit bomb. Like you said, it's so Oregon that it's like hard to believe it says Niagara Peninsula on the label.
I know.
And
I know.
then you switch to the 2019 Gravity, which was a barrel selection. So that what we do with the 19 Gravity is we go through all of our barrels that year and we build this wine. We select for the complexity, we select for ageability, we select for more of those Burgundian or bloody or beetroot or soil kind of earthy tones, because what we're looking for is this wine to age over time versus the wine you're going to grab and have for dinner tonight.
This is unmistakable. And when you like to compare your wine with different places around the world, well, that Gravity is a little bit more the Burgundian style I would say, the Côte de Beaune or something like that. I can definitely see that style. But there's truly that Niagara acidity, like that zen of Niagara. And yes, this is, and I give it personally 92 points when I tasted it that couple of weeks ago. 90 points for the Explorers for the Foundation series. I just thought with the price for the Foundation series and the approachability and the easy drinking, I was like, how can you not give a 90 points for wine like that? It's affordable. The price for me, I rated and scored around 500 wine last year, and tasted over 800 Canadian wines. And for me, the price, it's always in the equation. Is the wine over deliver? And with the Foundation series, that's completely what I got. Completely over deliver. Give me a style where I was like, yeah, for that price, give me that every day of the week. That's perfect. And give me the Gravity for Friday night.
Absolutely.
So
that's exactly what we're trying to do with that wine, and over deliver something like even our Chardonnays. All the programming for the Chardonnay is barrel fermented, barrel aged, hand harvested off our property, and we're selling it for $19.95. And it's just a constant over delivering, because we want wine to be approachable. We want people to enjoy it and not be scared of it, and we just want to share kind of our passion and our place.
Yeah, and like there's such a good segue now. Let's move on from the Pinot to the Chard. Chard is my biggest passion. The last 25 years working in the wine industry, I have a very, very special place for Chardonnay. I love Chardonnay for all over the world, especially from here, from Canada. So now we're having two very different expression again. Now we're talking about same vintage. So we have the unoak and we have the rusty shed. The rusty shed has this complexity of that nice barrel. You can feel the barrel, not overpowering, but totally part of the whole entity. And you have the unplug, where it's absolutely what you expect from the Chardonnay fruit. The melon, the fruit, the bright Niagara acidity is really obvious in that wine too. It's not the 2020 fruit bomb, but it's like, wait a minute. Yeah, it's the 19, exactly. Oh, no, okay, no, that's the 2020 for the other one. That's the two different vintage. But the fruit typicity of the unoak, exactly what you can expect, and the complexity of the rusty shed.
Yeah, so those are really fun wines to compare, because people always have opinions about oaked or unoaked. They say they don't like one or the other, and I say, perfect, we have both. You don't have to choose. It's not a big decision. So with the unoaked Chardonnay, that is picked earlier, picked a little bit less ripe than the rusty Chardonnay, and so that's to maintain that bright, fresh acidity like you're talking about. And then once it is picked and pressed and fermented, it remains on its ferment lees for 6 months. So yes, it is brighter and fresher and more, racy, but it is getting that texture and that mouthfeel as well, because it's going to stay on that lees for a few months and kind of pick up some of that texture. Whereas the rusty shed, that one's going to be picked a little bit later. It's also hand picked, and it's a bit of a vineyard blend. So different spots of the vineyard. It is fully fermented in oak, and then we go through and we taste every single barrel, And again, it's much like the gravity where we build the wine. We plan for its longevity. We plan for its minerality, texture, acidity, oak composition, and we're planning this wine to be the showstopper in 3 to 5 years, instead of, like you said, that wine you just bring home for your nightly beverage. So it's a very ageable Chardonnay. You have the 19, which I'm loving right now. It's got tons of that flinty, almost reductive, but not in a bad way, that really like matchsticky characteristic. And yeah, it's tasting really great right now.
You mentioned something that sometimes people don't. It's important to make the difference between barrel fermented and barrel aged. So that Chardonnay has been barrel fermented, correct?
And aged, yeah.
And aged. So you got the both. And so, yeah, and like just like you mentioned, there's a little bit of reductive, but the very good way. I like that complexity who brings some of the spice in the back and that caramel. It brings that caramel aspect who all totally complement the texture and makes it the perfect partner for a very good meal. This one is also a Friday night, like nice piece of salmon. That definitely I reserve that wine for friends and family. It was a 91 points in my book. I really enjoyed the whole aspect. It's unmistakably a Chardonnay, but I like what you've done with it because there's so many things you can do with Chardonnay. It's the beauty of that grape. You guys, the winemaker can have the stamp on the Chardonnay without destroying the whole thing because it's so malleable. Like you can play with chard, and I absolutely love the result of that Rusty Shed. Tell me the story about the Rusty Shed. What's that?
So, again, we bought the property back in 1999, and Ed Senior looked out over his beautiful brand new property where he's going to plant his dream vineyard and build his dream company. And there's this like eyesore, like just this Rusty Shed sitting in the middle of his pristine brand new project. He goes, get rid of that thing, like paint it, tear it down. I don't care what you do. That is hideous. Get it off my property. And his son, who was working actually for one of the bigger wine companies at the time, he was a marketing guru, fresh out of his MBA. He goes, no, I like it. It's got character. It's fun. And he went and named our Reserve Chardonnay after it. So the Rusty Shed stays. It's a great story between father and son, that like beautiful family dynamic. And that's how they've always been. And the Rusty Shed is stuck now, and it's actually a very useful piece of equipment on our property. So can't go anywhere now.
That's awesome. That is awesome. When I read part of that story, and I just thought it was absolutely brilliant. When the sun comes in and they say, whoa, here, let's put the brake on your plan, Dad. I love it. I love it. And one of the grape varietal who's getting a lot of traction, especially in Western Canada right now, it's Rieslings. I think it's getting more and more popular. People are starting to realize that Riesling, it's not only that sweet candy thing, that there was that old perception that all Rieslings are sweet. There's different type of Riesling. And Ontario does Riesling especially well. And so we have the pleasure to have two Rieslings here. Kudos to that one. That I loved. I loved it. I loved it. So tell me more about your Riesling program. What's your approach on Rieslings? What do you try to accomplish?
It's funny with Riesling. I can't take the credit. It's all vineyard with that wine, and I just have the pleasure of managing it. Managing, make sure the vineyard is clean, and when it's ripe, watching it, planning the perfect pick. Those grapes come in just like everything else, hand harvested. We sort out anything we don't want for the perfect pure expression of that limestone soil, that Dolomite limestone, that higher elevation. These vines now are almost 20 years old, and they are just really, really linear, but not boring. The linearness of this wine is so pretty. It's not linear because it's one tonal. It's got floral and flintiness, and it's got the lime and the zest and all these beautiful things going on, peach notes, but it's focused. And the Notches Vineyard just keeps getting better every single year. So like I said, I pick these grapes at their prime. I ferment them as clean as possible, and I make sure I baby them and I get out of their way. All the smells and the flavors, that's all coming from the soil. And I'm just very grateful to be able to work with such great fruit.
Allison, I think I really, really understood exactly what you wanted to do with that, because my first note of when I tasted the Najas Vineyard, it's focus and precision. And this is, to me, and tasting both side by side was such a beautiful teaching moment for the other people who were with me. When people often ask me, what do you mean by a focused wine, something precise? And I said, there you go, taste these two wines. There's one, the 19 Riesling is round, it's easy drinking, it's almost fluffy, and it's like, it's not all over the place, but it's round. And you got the Naya, and it's like whack, it's laser focused. And I think like nothing's better than tasting these two versions side by side to understand what precise and focus means. And with Naja, that is textbook precision. That's exactly how I felt the first sip when I tasted that wine.
Well, I'm glad that came through, because that's exactly the idea, for sure.
No, that's it. So yes, I'm happy that I really went, like I understood exactly what you wanted to do. And you can ask Jacob. I sent Jacob my tasting notes of all the wines, the 6 wines. If you want to review it, and make sure you let me know if you agree with my perception. I like that. I like that back and forth between us. But yeah, it was fantastic. I'm a big fan. I give it 92 points to Najas Vineyard. And you mentioned that peach, but also that zippy, ripe lime and limestone, and that like flint minerality brings such a beautiful mouthfeel. Definitely, it's another great experience of affordability with the other Riesling, with this one, and the value proposition at $19, and with Naja a little bit more expensive, but much more serious.
Yeah, exactly. And I really appreciate that. That's the point of the Flat Rocks Foundation series and the Capstone series is to get people, to like at accessible price points with great value, to get into wine and learn about it and try things, and have wines that they can have, once or twice a week if they want, versus that bottle you have to save, or that bottle you have to save up for. We want these wines to like go across Western Canada, and Riesling's going to get big because people know it's a serious wine. It's not just a sweet random wine anymore. It's very serious. So many ranges of styles. Riesling is great as a sparkling wine, it's great as a dessert wine, it's great dry and blends. It's just such an amazing varietal, and such a great expressor of where it was grown. Like I said, I stay out of the way of this wine. It comes in perfect. I just kind of babysit it all the way through to the bottle to make sure that it shows what happened in the vineyard in that bottle. That's kind of my job with the Riesling. And I think a lot of Rieslings are that way. I think they just really showcase their place.
I think, in my opinion on that, I think too many people pay too much attention on the residual sugar, the number on RS, who sometimes doesn't mean anything if you have the acidity to balance the other side. 16 grams of residual sugar doesn't mean a very sweet wine if you have a bright, fresh acidity to go balance the two, right?
Absolutely. And I have this new logic in my mind. I try and associate it to other things people have residual sugar in their life. And there's actually over 30 grams per liter residual in a large double. And that's only 500 mils. And there's 22 grams per liter in that bottle of Riesling behind you, the estate one, which means only 16 grams. So it's actually more sugar if you have a daily double than the entire bottle of wine. And I think that's where, and sugar's not, and there's nothing wrong with sugar. That's the other thing too, is people get afraid of it. They think, oh, sugar's bad for you. Residual sugar is just there to balance flavor. Same with your coffee. You like your coffee better when it balances that acidity of the coffee and that bitterness of the coffee. We're allowed to like sugar. We're allowed to enjoy balance in our lives. And I think that just making sure people understand that sugar is not the enemy. Residual sugar is there for a reason. And it's just helping you enjoy your wine a little more.
That's absolutely so agree with you. We have a question here. Ken McAllister from Calgary is asking, how many acres does Flat Rocks have? How many acres of land that you guys are own?
So we're on 90 acres and we have 68 acres planted. Great.
And between the three varietals only?
Yeah, so we have, what is it? 25 Pinot, 13, and then 1 acre of Gewurz, or some kind of breakdown in that regard.
And because that's a good segue, before I let you go, I need to talk to you about the Explore program, because I think that's pretty cool what you guys are doing with the Explore program. Someone in the chat here mentioned earlier that was drinking a Gewürztraminer from Flat Rock tonight. So even from the small little 1 acre plot that you have, you guys do a and it's available on the market. So it's pretty good. So tell us a little bit about the Explore program, where we're featuring this week the Sauvignon Blanc and the Gamay.
So this is really fun for me because, like I said, we only grow those 3 major varietals and a little bit of Gewurz in the property. We have a bit of an acreage that's open for replanting, that we took out some vines that didn't make it through a couple of really harsh winters. It's a cooler spot. So we want to put more of a cold hardy grape in there. And we were looking at something like Gamay. And so we looked at a really great neighbor of ours who grows Gamay, and we bought a bit of fruit off him in 2019. And just to see that, is this the next thing forward for Flat Rock? Is this our next adventure? So we're exploring the realm of Gamay as well as Sauvignon Blanc. Sauvignon Blanc does amazing in Ontario. Unfortunately, our winters are so hard on it. So one of the cool things that's coming out of the Brock University, the Covey program, they are looking at geotextiles and using that to blanket these grapes that are susceptible to winter damage, and then they can flourish and grow in the growing season, because the growing season isn't the problem. We get beautiful hot sunny days all through July and August. It's our winters that really hurt the vine. So we've looked at these 2 varietals as, exploring our next adventure at Flat Rock. What are we planting next? And what are we going to try and do? How can we push the boundary a little bit more, and how can we educate ourselves a little more in the process?
Is it a big difference between working with Pinot and Gamay in terms of the grape itself?
In a short answer, yes. Obviously, it's still a red grape, so it's vinified on the skins. Gamay has a ton more color. Gamay has a much larger berry. It also has less tannin in some regard, depending on how thin or thick the skins are. And then also it has a higher acidity. So it's a lot of different aspects. It's similar, but it does act differently. It responds differently to different types of oak treatments. So that was a really big kind of fun trial. So I put it in new oak, I put it in neutral oak, and I kind of didn't know what the end result was going to be, but we ended up being really happy with having the Gamay.
Awesome. Just we're hitting here 6 o'clock. I know it's late for you. I'm just going to bring Mira for the next 1 or 2 minutes. I'm sure she's burning to say hi and ask you maybe a question or two before we let you go.
No, I mean, I've learned so much. Super interesting. I'm glad you gave us some of the backstories about these fun little sculptures that you guys make on your property, and it's been really fun listening. So I appreciate it. Thank you so much. And you know what? My favorite part, Allison, was where you talked about the RS, and I had no idea that just a cup of coffee has more RS than a whole bottle of wine. So I will keep that one up my sleeve.
Exactly.
And like I said, no hard feelings either way. I put cream in my coffee every morning. I love, the odd cruller here and there. And I just think that we have these things in life to enjoy. And putting that like negative on RS and Riesling is you're missing out on a lot of good Riesling.
Totally. Yeah. And it doesn't feel like heavy sweet a lot of the time.
No, it's not cloying.
Yeah.
No, it's not going to be
Yeah.
heavy.
Yeah, that's amazing.
So we're planning to be in Ontario the week of June the 20th to the 30th. So
That's my
we're going to
birthday,
be on.
so I'll see you there. Have a party.
Mine too.
It's your birthday? Which day is your birthday, Allison?
I'm the 19th, so right before.
I'm the 27th, so we're going to be right there. We're going to be like 10 days. We're going to do a few members party all over the place. So we'll make sure
fun.
that we stop by and say hi, bring some people over, and celebrate Great Niagara wines with you. So thank you so very
Sounds
much for
perfect.
your time.
Thank you guys so much.
Thank you. And
Dude.
we'll be in touch. Keep up the great work, Allison. Thank you so very much.
Yes, amazing stuff. What a cool evening. I can't believe it's Tuesday. I keep thinking it's Wednesday, but we'll be back on tomorrow night to talk about these wines and other exciting things coming up for the club.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So I think you really deserve a glass of wine, you on the other side, because I've been keeping you dry all night.
Yeah, I do. It was a bit of a rushed evening getting home like that.
There you go. So yeah, it was a pretty cool conversation. I like the winemaker perspective. I like the gravity flow of winery. So I really like the whole thing, how they take care of the grapes. So a lot of fun talking with Allison Findlay, winemaker at Flat Rock Cellars, all of Niagara, Ontario. So thank you everyone for joining us for that edition of Meet the Maker.
We're going to go try this incredible cheesecake. Should we pair this with some kind of wine? Do we have some kind of wine that would go with this?
I'm sure with Riesling will be pretty good.
Hey, yes. Let's give it a shot.
There you go. Canadian wine lovers, Carl's Wine Club members, I would say have a good evening, and we'll see you tomorrow for our Wednesday Wine Happy Hours. Thank you very much. Enjoy the rest of your night.